And we're ready. As you can tell, Ms. Lisa is an amazing individual. Welcome to our How We Align Our Thoughts with Our Purpose Q&A. It is every month, and we are excited to have each and every one of you here. This is a very, very intimate community. So as you know, many of you will already know each other. Many of you will be welcome to get to know each other, as Mike is our first time attendee to this group. Everyone else has been here before, so they're pretty familiar with this process. Paul was our special guest last session, and to this month, we have Mr. Mike Dodson and Miss Amanda Dodson, a beautiful couple that is joining us today. And they've been given some specific questions that they want to, they were given to prepare for this opportunity. And now, for both of you, how would you like to start? Would you like to start as the questions that you have prepared for, or are you prepared for the other questions that come up for everybody else?
I wouldn't mind just going ahead and starting with the prepared questions, and perhaps just kind of walk us into each of those questions, and maybe we both take turns and do one subject at a time. I think would be a good way. Do you agree?
Absolutely agreed. And Amanda, you will come back with color once you're done with answering your questions, I'm sure. This is her first time speaking in such an environment. So Amanda, you are more than ready. And so the first question is, first of all, as many of you read in the emails that you were invited, Mike and Amanda were part of a referral journey. So we teach a lot of our business entrepreneurs. Advocates are the individuals that help our business 90% of the time. We are eventually becoming a personally chosen company where all of our clients will be personally chosen to be invited into our communities. And Mike was actually introduced to me through a couple of different BNI connections. The first one was actually Jamie Dorn, which is a realtor or was a realtor in many communities, and has actually become a coach now as well. And then Jamie referred me to Kim, and Kim referred me to Mike, to tell you the referral tree, that process that happened. And then Mike referred me to somebody else, and then we've been on a whole journey. As Nadine knows all about that. As I've taught that, how many years I've been teaching that now, Nadine? Lots. Mike and Amanda, the first question that I asked them was, what is the structures and systems you brought to the coaching experience, and what did you think about the coaching experience when you came into it? Because how we align our thoughts and purpose is one of the major things we work at as a community, to build everybody being purposeful about their thoughts and living it out in their actions and purpose. So who wants to go first?
You wanna go first?
Whatever you want.
Fine. I'll go first.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, thinking through the systems, and be honest with you, it was real easy just to say we didn't have any, right? But
or you thought.
That's right. So that's not really the truth, but that's kind of what it seems like. So just going through and just kind of looking at that and thinking about that, we purchased a new vehicle specifically for the business. And so it was a large cost, but it was one to present a professional look and be able to, that the presentation that I'm showing firsthand to my clients are one that's going to match the job that's going to be presented to them in their homes. I didn't want to show up in a nasty beater, and then that's the first expectation of my client, and then having to overcome that hurdle before we ever get to the job. So that was the truck.
Well, Mike, I'm going to set you up for a couple of things so everybody is clear about the business. That not everybody may be aware. You actually run DCI Electric, which is a combination of mostly electrical services. Every once in a while, you do a little extra handyman items, etc. And you're planning to move on from there, which we'll get to, right?
Yes. Yep.
So the truck was the first presence. So it was a structure system you decided you needed for presence, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, what else?
We had that. We had, through some other business friends of mine, I knew that I needed to have some kind of system for my paperwork. What we were doing was certainly not working. Keeping track of records in my phone messages to clients, or going through GPS to find out how long I was on a job that I hadn't billed for. those kinds of things certainly were not working well. I knew we needed to have a system. Found one that just looks amazing, and purchased it and paid for it for many months without looking at it.
So a computer system. So for those of you just joining us, great to have you all. And Mike and Amanda were asked what structures and systems they brought into the awareness of needing and wanting to hire a coach. And so so far, Mike has shared a truck and a platform, a POS, point of sale platform type of thing with CRM and all the other things that he bought into, and it sat on a computer and he paid a monthly service for and never touched.
That's correct. And then
I'm
also
sure nobody relates in the community, right?
Yeah. And
Keep
then
going.
also probably the best thing that I've done in my business as a small business is being part of the BNI networking. And I would say that because of those referrals and the referrals from their referrals, it probably is about 75 to 80% of the work that I receive. So that was good, except I wasn't keeping up with the back office part of that as far as keeping track of referrals, who actually gave me the referral, and all those things. So that's where we were in our systems, or that's what I have. Do you have anything different?
No, that's about it. It was easier to make a list of what we weren't doing than what we were doing.
And Amanda, how that list was pretty big, right?
It's longer, yeah.
And Amanda, not only are you a homeschool mom, you run VBS for your church. You set that up and build that every year. You also are heavily invested in the community, and you attempt to be your secretary, admin, and bookkeeper for your company.
Yes.
You know, just a few hats.
Just a couple.
Okay. So yet, how do you feel about when Mike decided to consider coaching? What was your thought pattern? Do you remember that far back?
Well, I got to tell you, my first thought was, we can't afford this because we weren't keeping up. And my second thought was, we need probably some help to get this under control. And so it was a pretty easy decision to go with it.
And we are very proud of you for making that commitment, because we've been on quite a journey since. And it wasn't an easy journey. It was a very domino process of chiseling. Agreed?
Yes.
So moving into the second question. So we're aware that we didn't have a whole lot, and thankfully we have a whole lot more happened since, right? So if you were to narrow down on the second question, what has been the awareness, the alignment? I'm going to shorten the question because I gave you a much more detailed question. You're welcome to clarify which parts stood out for you. Sure. Amanda, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. So I did narrow the question down because it was just too much.
I figured.
So what I took out of that was, what relationship growth have we had? So as a result of the coaching and the things you've introduced us to, and the book and the retreat and all the things, you know, how have our relationships changed? I think a few things for me. One thing that stands out is always, how can I add value? So when I'm somewhere and there's a situation that seems to be not going the way I think it should be going, I can always stop and say, what do I need to do to add some value to this right now? And I don't always have an answer, but I have the question, and that's a start. Beautiful. So that's a good way to consider the other person and not just myself, and all the other situations, circumstances, whatever else is going on. So that overall, we can all have a better experience, instead of, I am a leader, I have good ideas, I will plow you down with them. That's not always the right thing to do.
Yeah, this particular experience that you had, this fun little labyrinth that you had, was very eye-opening for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think I probably knew a lot of it already. It was just putting it together in a different way that was much more helpful.
you were physically experiencing it. It wasn't just mental, it was a physical experience, and you got to
Oh, yeah.
watch and live it out. And so it was a whole different aspect of it. So
Mhm.
I love the way you said, I'm not going to plow, because plowing is truly what actually breaks down bridges instead of building them.
Sure, sure.
Beautiful awareness, and you own that now. That's an
Yeah.
awesome gift. And not many people that don't, that the meek, very high presence Amanda, and meek is a very strong word, right? It's a very beautiful word. Yet most people, until they get to know you, don't realize how determined and on fire you are to achieve things. And so you have a purpose in mind, and you always want to be aligned with that. Getting people to understand that and connect with that and build bridges, including your husband, is a whole process.
Yeah, always.
Always. So, Mike, anything else you want to add, Amanda, before we ask Mike?
Yeah, one more thing, specific to Mike. He appreciates fun. He loves just going where the wind blows. He loves being spontaneous. Yeah, Dina. Yeah, I see you. And I am the complete opposite in that respect. And so one thing that I need to do to build a bridge with my husband is to add fun to things. And so I have been actively looking for ways to do that, to relate to him better.
Including mashed potatoes, if you're open to sharing
Yes.
that. I'm sure that will come up as needy. So, anything else, Amanda?
Nope, that's it.
Beautiful, Mike.
So I guess I was funny that I took the question a little bit more specific, of course, but just in learning through those things, and I wanted to write down your main question and just share that. What choices can I make, and what actions can I take in this moment to create the greatest net value? And the part of that hit me the most is in that we want to include everyone, including myself. And that's where I have a large deal of learning still to do, as far as including myself in what is worthy, or what needs to be considered in the decisions.
And Mike, that is the central question from our self-leadership portion of the retreat that we start with and end with and integrate throughout the retreat. And that Amanda has narrowed down to how can I add value, which is beautiful. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
I wanted to add that this isn't just something that you learn about. This is a life skill. And so I just had 2 instances right before our meeting that happened that I was able to walk this through. So as we just discussed, I own an electrical business. At the moment, I'm working with a landscaping company who said that they could take charge of installing some electrical pipe in the ground while they're doing their laying their pavers on the ground and things like that. I went to go check on the job site this morning and found that every single thing we spoke about was not the way that they did it, including not gluing the pieces of conduit together. They're just laying in the ground. You know, it would have been in my past that I would have been explosive at that, because when I speak to individuals, specifically in work, I will break things down to be like super particular and meticulous with my wording, and expect that people are just able to follow the simplest details. Although that doesn't always happen, so I get a little bit out of sorts when that doesn't happen. However, being able to pause, which is really what that statement is about, is taking a pause and reflecting on what's actually happening. And so just being able to take that moment and pause and say, you know what, this is all going to turn out fine. This isn't really a reflection on me. And I'll be able to have a discussion with the owner of the other business and we'll make it happen somehow, however that is, whether it turns out good, whether it turns out to be like, well, I'm going to have to dig this all up and do it myself, or whatever it is. And it really doesn't matter. It's just the process of getting to the end result. So being able to take that net value and say, you know what, my getting angry isn't going to help anyone in this situation. The things are already done. We just need to learn what are we going to do to move forward? So that was one. And then there were a couple things that were kind of pushing me into reacting in a way that would have not been well for myself. And so just being able to take a pause and say, you know what, I'm not going to react this way. I'm going to take charge of this moment and just choose to be kind.
Beautiful. Isn't that appropriate on a World Kindness Day? Thank you for sharing. And the gift that you also shared, Mike, is you gave everybody invitation to understand what was happening in your mind. So a lot of times people think that they don't have this little bubble over their head of what's happening, and your physical reactions are speaking for you. And so you took time to recognize that I could go into physical reaction, and instead I'm going to make some new choices, which is everything we teach in the, and you are actually not only chosen to receive it, you've chose to implement it, which is exciting news. So anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's about all, April.
Well, isn't that well, and so not only as you look at the systems and structures now that we have the first question, you look at how your relationship has grown for yourself, your couple, your family. We have been blessed to engage with your children. They're adorable and learning all these lessons with us. And your community. We wrapped up with the final question before we opened it up to everyone in the group with their questions, because this is all a Q&A. So it is all about questions and answers. We usually allow everybody else to answer the questions before I give any input. And yet Amanda and Mike are on the hot seat today because for a couple of different reasons. Mike has come to the awareness that he also wants to be a voice to help people learn from his lessons as well. And Amanda already is more than willing to do that. So the gift is that this is their first time literally being in a opportunity to speak and share their own story. And thank you for being willing. So as we wrap up to the final question that I've prepared you for, is there anything specific you want to share with that? You can see they're all looking at their notes.
Yes. Yes. So
And
I'll just share with the group real quick. I have ADD real bad. Maybe not as bad as my son, but I've got ADD real bad. And if I don't have a note, I'm just going to talk forever and not actually make a point. So that's why I have notes.
And this is why I'm letting you read your question and based off the way you heard it and seen it and wrote it. So you feel free to share the question, and Mike, you can go first and we'll let Amanda wrap it up and then open it up.
What was the question?
So the question was, what thoughts have I discovered that are key to align with my purpose?
Aha! That's a good one. That's a real good one. So
the joy about Mike is it looks like it's a brand new experience every time. Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
It's true. It's true though.
It kind of is, April.
It is.
So listen, I want to go back to the April. I don't know how much sharing I can do of your.
You can do as much as you like, sir.
Okay. I don't know if all of you have, or maybe some of you haven't, but there's a thing called an assessment report that's given to you at the very beginning of your journey with April. And let me
add one more thing to that for those of you. I have multiple assessments. And so the one that Mike and Amanda is referring to is called the Axiogenics report, and it's a self-leadership assessment. And it's about assets and biases. Okay, now you can go. Thank you.
Yes. Assets and biases. And one of mine that I scored 100% on was valuing yourself. And it's interesting because that is the asset side, but the bias of that is not living within that. And that's where, unfortunately, we spend most of our time. So I spend a lot of time reflecting on how I'm not living up to standards or How can I, in some ways, sabotage things so that I can live within what I kind of want to believe is truth? I don't know if that makes sense to everyone or not, but it's really important that we live within actual truth and not what our minds want to tell us. So
That's been a daily discovery for you, Mike.
Oh, yeah,
It's been
yeah.
a beautiful gift and a very transformative journey for you.
So what that boils down to is personal identity. And that's going to be what truths or lies I choose to believe about who I am. So that's been probably the largest thing that I've received more guidance in on a pretty long journey.
It's very, very powerful. And anything else you want to share about that, or anything else?
Oh, I'm good.
Amanda.
So aligning with my purpose. When your values don't align with someone else's, you're not going to get anywhere. There's going to be no progress. And so I don't want to phrase this. You need to find common ground somewhere. So I do a lot of volunteer work. I work with a lot of people. Some are more difficult than others. But if you know where to look, there's always some common ground. And so if you can find that and focus on that, you're going to have an easier time connecting, building the bridge, and accomplishing whatever the thing is that needs to be done for the greater good.
Absolutely. Isn't that beautiful? Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
So Mike and Amanda, I have so many more things to add to celebrate you, and yet I want to open it up for everyone else for any other questions. Are you comfortable staying recording?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Okay. Who wants to start first?
We'll probably need the makeup crew to stand in real quick if we're going to continue.
Oh my dear.
There's the Mr. Dodson I was waiting for. Okay, Paul.
Well, so first of all, I just wanted to thank both of you for spending time on this. When I saw that you were the guests on this particular call, I absolutely made sure that I was here, because I've so appreciated kind of being on similar journeys, not exactly the same, but very similar, in parallel or along with you guys. And you're always fun and enlightening, and always share, this call included, things that I'm like, yeah, I could focus on that more and have more fulfillment in my life if I did that. So thank you so much. Can't help but self-indulge a little bit, Mike. I feel your pain on the conduit thing. First of all, proud of you for not coming unglued on the non-glued conduit. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But I also just this week had to dig up about 200 feet of conduit because of that exact issue, and was unable to pull the wires through it because they came apart in the ground about 200 feet from the end. So anyway, feel your pain, and a lot of reason to be frustrated, but change your approach to get a win for you and the homeowner. Forget about the landscaper. But anyway, finally, a question. I want to hear about mashed potatoes.
Yeah. I was wondering who was going to ask. Thank you, Paul.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. So we were at a restaurant a few weeks back, and it was his sister's birthday. And so we're sitting around the table with, I don't know, 10 family members. And I had ordered French fries with my meal, and he just reached over and plucked the French fry off my plate. And I thought, okay, All right. And so I reached over and plucked a finger full of mashed potatoes off of his. And so that engages him. He loves the spontaneity. He loves the it was unexpected. He likes that. And so even though I had mashed potatoes under my fingernails, I made him laugh and we made a connection. And so it was a good thing.
And completely unexpected. What'd you say, Mike?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I just wanted to add that that story is hilarious because Amanda is the epitome of proper, and she's not going to do things that are
Uncalled for.
yeah, whatever. She likes to follow the rules. She likes to be very organized, very neat, very orderly, and structurally. And so for her to make the decision that, hey, I'm going to take literally a handful of his mashed potatoes, was just the funniest thing in the world. Super, super unexpected. But it's those are the kinds of things that happen when you kind of change your perception and how you're going to choose to react to the world around you.
Beautiful.
So,
And Nadine, you're celebrating that, correct? Love it.
So
Paul,
that's a really, really fun story. And then it prompts me for a follow-up question, and then I'll put myself back on mute, I promise. But
you're so adorable. Keep going.
So my follow-up question, and you kind of mentioned the levity with that, and referred to part of your journey being focused on your relationship, and to the extent you've experienced or observed kind of improvements or enhancements to that. I'm curious, kind of broadly for you, each of you, how would you describe how that feels?
Great question, Paul.
Well, I know people long for connection, and I do too. I long for connection. I always want to be, I want to value and be valued, and especially with my husband. And so when we can do these little things, it just feels good inside. Like we've made a connection. I have succeeded in something today. And so that's great.
Yeah. Paul, are you asking about the journey of changing? Is that what you're asking about?
No, I'm actually asking kind of the after effect, kind of on individually, as Amanda just answered, how your life just feels, not in any specific term, but just kind of broadly. I mean, how do you feel after you've kind of consistently experienced these mashed potato moments or whatever else, is similar?
Right. Gotcha. Paul, I don't know that I can fully answer your question without saying that making that decision, going against my normal, if you will, going against the normal, and making a different decision isn't always a great feeling. It's not always a great feeling. Sometimes it can be quite a mental struggle to say that person deserves all of what I want to give them, but I'm not going to, because that's not an appropriate response, something like that. So there's that inside fighting, back and forth. But once you've made that decision to really just focus and bear down and just really kind of allow yourself to give up your right to whatever emotion or feeling that you want to have, that you give yourself so much freedom by allowing yourself to be free of what your expectations are.
I love and appreciate both of those answers so much. Thank you for that.
And Paul, as an individual that was part of their journey, you have watched the transformation and the journey, and you know from your own experience, as you mentioned, the journey is continuous. It keeps going, right? And Mike, go
Yeah,
ahead, Paul.
yeah, I've experienced how easy. Well, I've experienced everything that the two of you just talked about, and as Mike, mentioned, some of the efforts and conscious behavioral changes you need to go through to get there, and how great that feels, as both of you alluded to. But it's easy to then have life cause you to kind of go back into your natural liabilities or behaviors, if you will, and then you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't really feel great. So anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And Mike, releasing the expectations is a whole journey, and there's so many other pieces attached to that for you, right?
There is, yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for summarizing that so beautifully. So who's next? It's open Q&A, and it is an opportunity in any aspect. It doesn't have to just be from Mike and Amanda. It can be any question. This is an open Q&A. They are done with the hot seat questions, and we thank them for that. Is there anything specific that anyone has? There are a multitude of amazing brains and wisdom in this room. So who wants to go next? Miss Nadine.
So I have a question for you. So I'm hearing that you guys are really learning to appreciate each other as husband and wife again. You're rediscovering each other. That's what I'm hearing. I would like to know how that has changed the structure of your business. The closer you guys get and the more you identify with each other, how has that helped and benefited the structure of your business?
That's a great question.
It is great. I don't know what it hasn't helped, honestly, because the better we can communicate and get along and speak to each other and treat each other and all the things, everything in the business is going more smoothly. We can have a conversation like, hey, maybe you should try something else, and it'll be received instead of automatically, putting up a wall and then we end up fighting about how to schedule something,
Yeah, I would say so. With a little bit of instruction from April, a little.
Oh, a tiny bit.
a year worth.
Yeah, yes, you're correct, Nadine. So Amanda is really good at organization. However, Amanda homeschools our children, and that's really where her passion is. That's where she flourishes well in that homeschooling. She's great at it. And so unfortunately, that's kind of caused a little bit of a separation where I do the business and she does the homeschooling, and kind of it doesn't meet in the middle anywhere. And with my ADD, I can't focus enough to do the structural back office kind of stuff on my business as well as run it all. And so having Amanda really kind of step in and take over, hey, we're going to have these literally massive charts on our walls of what are we going to do in this week? What are we going to do next week? And just giving that kind of freedom to say, hey, this is okay for us to do this together and work through that. It's really created a lot of good momentum to move forward.
An immense amount of momentum. Nadine, that was a beautiful question. And Nadine understands this long because Nadine worked with me many, many years ago and spent many years with us working through a multitude of items, and she gets to teach others with it as well. So Nadine, is there any other questions you wanted to add?
No, just a comment. I just really like how beautifully you guys are working together. And I really see you guys starting to lean into each other. Like Amanda's so structured. I mean,
Literally.
Somebody that's ADD really needs somebody that's so structured, and when we can let our egos get us go away, it really helps. I will tell a story on April one time because I understand what it was. The most humiliating thing April did to me, she didn't do it
Oh.
to me, I did it to myself, was I had to send her a picture of what my office looked like. And I'm a little ADD, and I was like, died. I just wanted to die inside. But, April doesn't judge, and she really helped me get my thoughts together and to learn and add structure into my life. So I really love the fact you guys are working together, aiming into that. That's something I noticed. Job. Keep up the great work. And April
Thank
is a
you. Thank
wonderful
you, Nadine.
leader.
April had the opportunity to walk through my basement. and I know that you were saying that April doesn't judge, but I've got to tell you, I really felt some judgment in those eyes as she went down and saw my absolute disaster in my home that I've created.
So, Mike, my sympathy was what you saw in my eyes. And
Yeah.
and now, Mike and Amanda, how beautiful is that room now? How functional is that room now?
We've had guests stay downstairs.
Progress.
It's been huge progress. So,
Yeah.
and you're right. I'm human. I do have moments when the physical human part comes out. Yes. Yet, Mike and Amanda, you have, and Nadine has gone through it as well. By the way, Nadine and I have been gifts to each other for many years, and we've walked each other through quite a few different circumstances over the years. And the gift of community and allowing somebody to be that third set of eyes and ears and heart and mind is a gift to help you see other ways of approaching things that you just sometimes don't know where to start.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're living it. So congratulations. And thank you, Nadine. As always, I can still see that picture, believe it or not. And yet, every time I see you now, you have immense peace and joy around you because of that. Yeah, it's awesome. Stephen, you're ready, I can tell. After you unmute. Are you able to unmute, sir?
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, so I was just wondering, I must have missed the menu item where it said ideas will be received by spouse.
The menu item.
I would have checked that box requesting that service. So I think that's something I'd like to work on.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm not in too different of a spot. I mean, what I'm seeing is the potential results, and it's heartwarming. My wife is the organizer, the go-getter, it's 5 a.m. How come you're still in bed? My coffee's not ready. It says he brews, not she brews. So, get to it. And I'm all over the map. And I should probably have my office kind of blurry like Nadine does, because because I get it. So yeah, I'd like to incorporate that, bringing work to home and having it all be fluid, or at least a platform where it can be fluid at some point.
Well, Amanda, there's so many questions there, Stephen. And
Yeah.
yet, Stephen and I have also known each other for many, many decades now. And decades, yes. And his beautiful wife is also a coach and a mentor to many. She's actually a woman speaker. And her and I have come to an agreement of how we stay in our lanes to support him. And it's been a journey because we met 20 years ago, right? And one of the things, I was at Robert Hartman Institute, and Amanda, I'm getting to the question. You know this about me. I have to put some context around it first. I was at Robert Hartman Institute happy hour, and they were sharing about Robert Hartman, who created the assessment that Nadine and I actually are trained in, a couple of them, or I'm not sure if you're in DISC and emotional intelligence too, Nadine. Yes. So I actually have him for DISC, emotional intelligent habit finder, and axiogenics. And Robert Hartman was actually barbecue buddies with Abraham Maslow, who created the hierarchy of needs for psychology. So they were sharing. I'm actually going to be visiting the Institute in Tennessee December 6th to actually see some of his writings of 40 years of life. I mean, 40 years of thinking and thought patterns to build this amazing program. I mean, he actually was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and he died before he could receive it. So it's kind of a whole interesting journey, but they talked about the fact that the reason they don't want some of the first things to come out is because he was still thinking. He was still learning and growing and developing his thoughts and reforming them and giving them out. And as a coach that's been doing this for decades now, and Mr. Mason was kind enough to say to me the other day that I've been a sled dog in this journey. And I thought, gosh, what an interesting, I've never been called a sled dog before. And yet it was such a gift because Stephen has stood by me through that sled dog and watched the transformation of the coaching and the process of the development. And go ahead, Stephen.
And been supportive.
And been supportive. Yes, 100% agree. And been supportive through the journey. And so, but his wife also has gone through her own transformation as well. So Kimla got a chance to come to our first event, and Paul and Amanda and Mike, you know what the event is now. Imagine what it was the first time. And it still has growth opportunities, right? So, and they only got half of what you got at that event. So it's still a journey, and Kimla will hopefully get the opportunity to come back with an open mind. And Stephen's not listening to that one yet, but because again, that's the willingness. Amanda, the question is, how difficult was for you to, as you said, you knew you needed the help, you knew you had to make space for it, but how difficult was it for you, knowing all the different challenges we've had, getting Mike to receive? Never mind, I mean, because you're a lot more receiving than Mike at times, right?
Depends.
Right? And so, and that question is actually for both of you in regards to, because Stephen said, if that was on the menu, how do I get somebody to buy into that menu, right?
Can I
Of course.
take it?
Go ahead.
So just our journey as far as working with you, April, has been one of Amanda doesn't like to step out into things that she doesn't fully understand, 100% fully understand. And so this journey has been really cool for me to watch, as Amanda has really stepped out on many occasions to do the things that she absolutely does not want to do, and completing them or doing them in on top of the heap, if you will, or whatever, you know, being as successful as possible. But it's just been really, it's been really good for me to see her putting in that effort outside of her own true desire in the beginning.
Agreed. That's when I love when you two speak for each other. It's so much fun to watch. Amanda, is there anything he left out that you want to add?
No, that's pretty accurate.
It has been a whole journey. And Stephen, that's been the same journey for you, is it's taken journeys of unpeeling. I mean, literally unpeeling for you to move forward into this. Thank you, Stephen. It is a faith journey. 100% agreed. Excellent. So, Mr. Mason, do you have, or Lisa, Grace, is there any, I know Amy's on listening in, and thank you for joining us, Amy. And if you have any questions, feel free to add into chat or come off mute and join us. Anyone else want to add any other questions? Lisa, you're good? Mr. Mason?
You know, it's my first time visiting, and I just want to say thanks for being so open and honest. It's like, you know, having a couple, you know, people show up at your psychiatrist session, sitting in the corner watching a private conversation. So anyways, I appreciate the candor, I appreciate the honesty and the openness that everybody shared with each other. And thanks for letting me in.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
beautiful. Yeah, I tell them regularly I'm not a psychiatrist or a counselor. So I say that regularly to everybody. And yet it is a journey of self-discovery. And I just get to be the guide and ask the questions. And for the business people and the journey, I get to also be the individuals that I get to, the difference of those of you that are unaware, life coaching, and especially for the ICF pathway, you are taught not to ever use any of your own experience. And so if you go into business coaching and you have business coaching experience, and like Nadine asked you, which was a beautiful question, their personal and professional all relate. And how you show up and develop as a person impacts your professional life. And I actually lead a leadership academy, and a gentleman that just graduated from our leadership academy, and Nadine, I don't know if you saw, Cliff is recovering well. So yes, it was great to hear. He has many more stories to tell. And so we had one of the coaches I coach with just had a heart attack. And so he had a widowmaker experience. And he only 5% of people that have had a heart attack with that widowmaker actually survive. And so he shared a beautiful Facebook post about that. And it was very eye-opening for everybody that was connected to him. With that, I knew when I chose to be a business coach, I knew that I could do both sides of it. Is I could allow people to, and Nadine, you and I think have the same fly flying around us. So overall, as I start to wrap up, and thank you, Mike, for allowing us to share this intimate space, because we do allow these Q&As and our communities to be very unlayered. And that's what we mean by living unlayered, is there's no need to feel any judgment, and as human as we are, and yet also to be willing to understand that each of us are on a journey. And I love, Stephen, how you shared that faith journey. I wholeheartedly agree with that and believe that. And I believe that we all get to discover what we believe. And Mike, I would like you to wrap up on that identity journey, because now that you are using your business tools, you are using structures and systems, and we've got plenty more to go. I tell people often, we just get started. As Nadine said, it really is a long journey. And thank you for the permission to keep moving forward in it, right? Because I mean, some things can be done in 90 days and some things are a year, 2 years or more. I mean, Stephen and I have been doing this for decades. Paul and I have been at it for a few years now, right? And so everything is a process. And so now that you're starting to really own that identity personally and professionally, what do you think is the next step for you with that? And Amanda, anything else you want to add to that?
Sure. I don't think I can do it justice without talking about my past a little bit. And I want to try to be very quick about it, because I could take a lot of time, because I'm very passionate about it. So I'll just start out by saying that about 10 years ago, it was pressed on my mind and heart firmly that I need to be in a position where I can use the gift of story to be able to help others identify places in their lives that they can find hope. I've had the opportunity to be through a lot of trauma, a lot of garbage in life, but I've also been blessed with being able to learn how those become opportunities. Those become little glimpses of hope for others. When you understand the story and you understand the hope of the story, you understand the joy that's within that trauma. And I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And so many of us go through life with no hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, I want to spread, I just want to spread that gift. And so with that, I've done a whole lot of work in what I've recently understood to be all of it really has to do with finding out what is my identity. For many years, I have focused on the trauma and how that affects me as an adult from childhood scenarios and things like that, and just kind of being able to make sense of these are the reasons why I make the choices I make, and so that I can identify that, be able to take a pause, and be able to make a different decision if I need to, or at least the opportunity is there. Not saying I always succeed in the right decision, but recently have found more information in identity, as there's more to identity than what I can bring to it myself. In my belief system, I am a Christian, and I believe that Christ has a superior identity that he has given us through his word. And being able to reflect my life through that identity has been some of the most freeing stuff that I've ever found or ever done. And just, I don't know that I can say more about that in a short amount of time, but
so Mike, there's a couple reasons I asked, and the first one is, Amanda, you've had to hold a lot of space because there was a lot of self-sabotage happening.
Yes.
And belief is a very powerful word, whatever that belief is, right? And if you believe that you deserve to be self-sabotaged, you're going to continue to believe and do that.
Yes.
And when you learn to believe, and whoever and however you hear this, I choose the same path. Yet the choice is, what am I going to allow my mind, my heart, and my soul to choose and align with my purpose? What are those thoughts? How does it go to and apply to my purpose? And as I develop that purpose, so as you said, I'm learning the freedom to serve my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And my purpose is to provide hope in that belief.
mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And as we choose that, and as we align with that, and one of the things that we get to chisel away at you is that is now, and I love when Amanda smiles. She's like, yeah, that's been a chisel process. So Amanda, anything else you would add to everything that was just said to wrap us up?
No.
She's like, let me think that through. So unless there's any other questions, we will give 5 more minutes to your day. But most importantly, Amanda, I thank you for your willingness to share that your business and your professional, personal life is improved because you've made the commitment to invest in yourself and invest in developing your leadership. Because when you choose your thoughts, thank you for celebrating that. Yes. When you choose the thoughts you commit to, it will show up in your actions and your purpose, and it will be fulfilled. And thank you for sharing. It's been a very, very big gift. Any other thoughts? I'll stay on if there's anything needed. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Nadine, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you again. Great job, Amanda and
Thanks,
Mike,
guys.
and thank you for all asking questions. Okay, I think we're good.